Animal testing. It happens here in the United States every single day, whether it's on mice, rats, cats, dogs, or any other types of animals as well. The 3 R's are sets of principles that scientists are encouraged to follow in order to reduce the pain and impact of animal research. Reduction is reducing the number of animals used in experiments by improving experimental techniques as well as sharing information with other researchers. Refinement is refining the experiment or the way the animals are cared for so as to reduce their suffering by using less invasive techniques as well as having better medical care and better living conditions. Replacement is replacing experiments on animals with alternative techniques such as experimenting on cell cultures instead of whole animals, as well as using computer models. The laboratory conditions for animals vary by their size. Small animals such as hamsters, mice, and rats are usually kept in a plastic box the size of a shoebox. Medium-sized animals such as guinea pigs live in a bigger plastic box almost 2 times the size of a shoebox. More than one animal lives in these plastic boxes usually. For the larger sized animals such as dogs, they are kept in wired cages and many of them are kept in there all the time and taken out only when used for experimentation. The environment in the lab, such as the temperature and the light, are regulated and kept at a proper level to maintain consistency. There are approximately 50 to 100 million cats in the United States as well as 54 million dogs. Out of these figures, 15 million cats and dogs are put to death in shelters every year due to overcrowding. Approximately 20 million animals are used in research labs each year for medical purposes. This is just 5 million more animals put to death in labs compared to the animals that are put to death in shelters. When the animals that are tested are put to death for medical purposes, it is more justifiable than just putting them to death in a shelter for overcrowding. Is it ethical to use animals for medical research to suffer for our own needs? Being forced to be experimented on is not fair. The animals should be free. Based on the idea of speciesism, in which humans are more superior than animals, is it ethical to abuse human power by choosing animals that are below us for performing medical research on? The Silver Spring monkey case occurred in 1981 at the Institute of Behavioral Research located in Silver Spring, Maryland. This case was a very severe case regarding animal experimentation for medical research and the ethicality of it. 17 monkeys were used as research subjects by psychologist and animal experimenter Edward Taub, who used these monkeys for spinal cord and stroke injury research. These monkeys were experimented by having surgeries in which their spinal nerves were cut off, Edward Taub making sure one or more of their limbs would not function properly. Through the use of food deprivation, electric shock, and other horrifying methods, these monkeys were forced into trying to regain the use of their impaired limbs. They were also kept in a dark chamber and repeatedly shocked until they would use their disabled limb. The monkeys lived in 18 by 18-inch wired cages. One of the founders of the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, Alex Pacheco, worked undercover and logged notes of what was happening inside Edward Taub's lab. He showed animal rights activists around the laboratory secretly at night, and they photographed the crippled monkeys and their living conditions. Pacheco then reported the lab for animal cruelty, so then the lab was shut down and the monkeys were confiscated. In conclusion, this case was the landmark case that launched the animal rights group, the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, or PETA. This also led to the nation's first arrest and criminal conviction of an animal experimenter for cruelty to animals, as well as adding additions to the 1985 Animal Welfare Act, such as the Improved Standards for Laboratory Animals Act. Even though the case of the Silver Spring monkeys brought the light to animal experimentation, ethical issues still arise. Is it ethical to experiment on these monkeys if they already suffer to a wide extent? From the idea of harm versus benefit, the levels of suffering on these monkeys were so high that the effects to humanity did not provide moral justification. Based on the ethical values of the experimenter Edward Taub, the amount of animal suffering in this experiment was in his hands and in his degree of ethical values.